All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Nicole, and welcome back to our English class, specifically more on pronunciation class. Okay. Um, you are doing, yes, you're doing an amazing job getting this far. I've mentioned that this is gonna be another set of pronunciation topics that we are going to tackle on. We are going to be discussing on, and we are going to tap on. Okay. Today, we are diving into one of those little things that can make a big difference when we speak English clearly and naturally, and that is on word stress, as you can see on the screen. Now, I know stress might sound like something we want less of, right? But in English, word stress is actually our friend. It's how we make words sound right to native speakers and how we avoid confusion. So you might already be saying all the right words, but if the stress is in the wrong place, it can make your message harder to understand. Okay? So think of the word stress here like rhythm in music. Basically, that's how we should see it. Each word here has its own beat. Some syllables are loud and clear, others are quiet and quick. So if we change the beat, sometimes the word sounds totally different or even turns into another word because it will be having a different meaning. Okay? Even though they have the same number of letters, same spelling, no? Same spelling but different pronunciation can literally change a whole word. No? Okay. So today we are going to learn how to hear word stress, how to use it properly, and how to feel more confident when you speak. So don't worry, we'll break it down together step by step. And by the end of this lesson, you will notice a real difference in how natural your pronunciation sounds. Now, this particular topic, I think it will not be tackled for one day only. This will be also a multiple series, not multiple series, but this is going to be discussed for a couple of videos or a couple of sessions, okay? Because word stress is actually quite long, although it sounds simple, but it's long, okay? Because we're also talking about, this is very simple. It's foundational in our understanding, it's foundational in our pronunciation. That is why we have to really tap into this really deeply, okay? All right. So let's take a deeper dive into word stress and why it plays such an important role in pronunciation. Okay. All right. Let's have this one. Okay. So here, word stress, as you can see on the screen, word stress means emphasizing one syllable in a word more than the others. When you say a word with more than one syllable, one part of the word is louder, it's clearer, and it's longer. So that part is the stressed syllable. So when we speak words with more than one syllable, we don't pronounce each syllable with equal energy. So one part of the word naturally stands out, as you've noticed. That's what we call the stressed syllable. Okay? So it's the one we say with more volume, a little more length, and much more clarity. So it's stronger than the other syllables, which we pronounce more softly and more quickly. Okay? So here's the thing here. It's the stress that this stress isn't just an extra detail. It's really important. It's foundational. So it's not something that we can ignore or skip. So word stress is just generally it's essential for clear communication because it's really the base of pronunciation, and that pronunciation is really important in communication, in understanding one another, right? So if we stress the wrong syllable here, the word can sound strange, the word can sound confusing, or even like a completely different word, which we try to avoid as much as possible so that there's no room for errors or room for misunderstandings. And we don't want that. Okay? That's why here The native speakers might not understand you even if you've said all the correct sounds, but different stress. Okay? All right. All right. Now here, when we talk about word stress, I'm sorry for that. Here, English does not really follow a simple rule for which syllable to stress in each word. It's a bit tricky in a way because stress patterns can vary depending on the word, depending on how it is used or even the speaker's accent. But don't worry about that. We're going to look at simple ways to recognize stress and practice using it naturally. Okay? It just takes a little awareness and a bit of practice. So for now, just remember this: in every multisyllabic, which means that it has more than one, it has more than one syllable, okay, in a word. So in a multisyllabic word, there's always one syllable that takes the lead. Okay, that's the part of the word that we really stressed on. So it's like the spotlight in a play, or it draws the listener's attention and gives the word its rhythm. So in the next part, we will look at some examples together so you can start hearing and feeling that stress for yourself. Okay, let's keep going. All right, this one. Uh huh. So here, all right, now that we understand what word stress means, let's look at a simple and fun example to make that idea really click. So take the word banana. Okay? It's a familiar word, right? And as you can see on the screen, that's how banana looks if you still don't, if you're not familiar with it. But yeah, I think everyone's familiar with the word banana and what it is. So here, we know that banana has three syllables, ba, na, and na. And here's the key here: when we say this word naturally in English, we don't stress the first or the last part. So we stress the middle syllable. As you can see on the screen, I highlighted the middle syllable, na, which is also the same with the last syllable. But yeah, we are stressing on the middle syllable here for the banana. So we say banana. Okay, banana. Again, banana. It's a very simple example. So as much as possible, we start with a simple and very, something that we are very familiar of, so that we can build on that familiarity and we can talk about more complex matters later on. Okay? All right. So going back with banana. So this is how we pronounce it with proper word stress. Okay? Banana. So we stress on the middle part. We do not say, when we stress the first part, we do not say banana. Okay? Banana. Where the stress is on the first part, we do not, as much as possible, we do not say that. We also don't say it like this, banana. Okay? Of course, we do not want to say that. It's not the proper pronunciation of that word. We do not say banana or banana. Okay? We say banana. So the middle syllable is our stressed syllable here. That's how it should be pronounced. So here, can you hear how na is just a little bit louder, longer and more clear than the other parts? The first na, huh? So that's the stressed syllable, as I've mentioned earlier. So it gives the word its correct sound and rhythm. So if we stress the wrong syllable, it feels a little off, right? Like if I try to stress on the last syllable as I did earlier, I will say banana. Again, banana. I have 3 bananas. It sounds weird because it's not the proper pronunciation of it. So it really does feel like it's wrong, okay? Because it's wrong. It's not the proper way to pronounce this particular word. So that's it, okay? So here, if it gives the word its correct sound and rhythm. That's the purpose of word stress. So if we stress the wrong syllable, as I've mentioned earlier, it really does feel a little bit of wrong. It's not. It's like it's a new word. We are not familiar with it, so it's like something is missing or misplaced. And when we are speaking English, using the right word stress, it really helps listeners, your the recipient of your information of what you're saying. They can instantly recognize what we are saying, you as the speaker, because those are familiarity. There's this with familiarity that can really help you build rapport with your receiver of the information or with your listener, basically. Okay, so you can think of it like this. Word stress is like highlighting the most important beat in a dance, because we've tried to put an analogy on it, right? Just a little bit analogy. We don't want to really dig deeper into this analogy as much as possible. If we learn something as like this, we try to learn it straightforward. But there are just times that a little bit of analogy would not really hurt. Okay, so here I mentioned that stress is the most important beat in the dance. So if the rhythm is off, the dance does not feel quite right. That's how we feel if the stress of a word is not correct. Okay? But of course, when you get the beat right, everything flows naturally. You can dance naturally. Just, because it's what you practice, it's what is proper, it's what it should be. So that's why. Okay. So here you also notice the phonetic spelling. I've included this one. I've mentioned this one, right? This is the IPA, or the International Phonetic Alphabet. I've included this one because this is very helpful. That's why on our previous sessions, I really tap into a whole series of topic about IPA, or International Phonetic Alphabet, because it can really help you, or it can really guide you in your pronunciation, because that's what it is. It's it's a it's an alphabet for pronunciation. Okay, because I've mentioned in our previous topics that English is really complex in a way that there's only 26 alphabet letters, but there's 44 sounds in English. No, so that's why it's really hard. It's a complex in a way, which is why IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet, um, emerged in a way that it addresses that particular problem. Because here in IPA, every symbol, every sound, every letter has its own corresponding sound. One is to one, basically. Okay? All right. So that is this is the IPA transcription of the word banana. And as you've noticed, there's always, there's this slanted bracket here, because that's how the IPA transcription should be written. There's always it should always be inside two slanted brackets. Okay. All right. Anyway, let's move on with some practice time. Okay, because what we did earlier was just, this banana is just one example, and I know that it's very simple. That's why I really started with banana, so that more complex stuff later can really be helpful to you. This you Because you already had this particular gist on what we are going to talk about. Okay, what stress is. I think you also understand what word stress here. I believe, because I believe that you understand word stress if you were able to learn some English aspects, some English before this. Okay. Of course, I've mentioned here, this is where we shift from learning about word stress to actually using it. And just like the brain lifting weights in the picture, we're about to give our pronunciation muscles a little workout. Okay? Now remember here, learning to use word stress correctly does not happen instantly. It's more of like a skill you build with practice and repetition. So just like learning a new dance move, or getting better at cooking a dish you love to, or something like that. So just be patient with yourself, and of course enjoy the process. That's what really help you to be a good English speaker. as well as, of course, listener. So for this practice, I'm going to guide you through some words. I want you to really listen to where the stress is and then repeat after me, okay? Focus on making the stressed syllable stand out. Make it a little louder. Make it, you hold it a bit longer and say it a little clearer than the rest. All right? Okay. So we'll start with something simple and we'll do it together. You don't need to be perfect. Once again, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be willing to try. And remember, the more you practice, the more natural it will start to feel. Okay? Let's jump in to our first item. Let's jump in and give our English pronunciation a little boost. Okay? Ready? Uh-huh. I think I provided everything in one slide. But yeah, let's go over one by one each. Okay, let's go. Okay, yeah, I provided everything at once. But yeah, here let's do a quick but powerful drill to sharpen our ears and mouths for English word stress. You know, this is just, an icebreaker basically. Just, something to freshen up with, something to wake our minds with, okay? This is your chance to really feel the rhythm of each word and build stronger pronunciation habits, okay? I'll say a word and clearly. I'll say a word slowly and clearly, and I want you to listen carefully to where the stress is. Notice which syllable is louder, I which syllable is longer and as well as clearer. So after that, repeat the word after me. Try to match my stress and rhythm. I'll give you, of course, your turn. All right, let's take it one step at a time. Let's start with the first word. Syllable. Again, syllable. This has three parts. Listen, syllable. One more time, syllable. Okay, the first syllable is sil. Sil. And this particular syllable is, what do you think? It's stressed or unstressed? From how I say it, syllable. Again, syllable. Is it stressed or not? What do you think? Yes, it's actually stressed. Okay, as you've noticed in how I say it a little bit louder, a little bit louder, a little bit longer, and of course, as much as possible, it's clearer than the rest. Okay, so I say it as syllable. Okay, so try that with me. Syllable. Again, syllable. Your turn. All right, good. Okay. Second is banana. You remember this from earlier, no? This also has three syllables. And if you remember, this was just, discussed like a few seconds ago. Where's the stress in this particular word again? Banana? Banana. Where's the stressed part? Yes, it is stressed on the second syllable. So we say it as banana. Again, banana. Let's say it again. Banana. Okay, your turn. Okay, good. Third, we have apartment. Again, apartment. This one has apartment. This one has three syllables. Listen again. Apartment. So here, where do we stress the word? I mean the syllable. Where is the stressed syllable in the word? What do you think? I'll say it again, huh? Apartment. It's very obvious. Apartment. Okay. It is stressed on the second syllable, part. Now you say it, apartment. All right. Very good. Fourth, ability. Again, ability. Um, this is a little longer now. This has four syllables. Listen, ability. Again, ability. Where's the stressed? Where's the stressed part here? It's on second syllable also. Same as with apartment, it's the stressed syllable here in the word ability is bill, which is the second syllable. Okay? Ability. Say it slowly with me. Ability. Again, ability. Now faster. Ability. All right. It's your turn now. Okay. All right. Good. Fifth and the last one. Education. Again, education. This also has four syllables, and the stress is on where? Education. What do you think is the stress syllable here? Education. Is it the first syllable, ed? The second syllable, u? The third syllable, k? Or the last syllable, shun? Education. Again, education. All right. Where is it? On the third syllable. Okay. So try this. Education. Okay. Once again, education. One more time. Nicer and smoother. Education. Your turn. Okay. Very good. Now let's go through all five one more time. A little faster. Maybe let's start with, a bit slower and then we get faster as we started. Okay. As we finish all five. So say them with me. Are you ready? Say them with me. Okay? Don't wait for me. Just, let's try to say the every word at the same pace. Okay? Let's start with the first one. Syllable. Yeah, a little bit slower, I'm sorry. Syllable. Second, banana. Third, apartment. Fourth, ability. Fifth, education. Okay? Once again, this time a little faster. Syllable, banana, apartment, ability, education. Okay? How did that feel? How did that feel? Great effort, everyone. So, as much as possible, we try to really build our understanding on this. Although I really, I know that some of you, or if not all, already understand what word stress is. But it's very important that we tap it as much as possible every time that we need. Every time that we need, every time that we learn something because it's really fundamental in our pronunciation skills, which is, it will greatly influence our understanding and the way we communicate with others in English. Okay? That's why even if we know this, we try to go back into this, understand it deeply, understand it really well. Okay? All right. So here, the more you do this, the more natural it will become, of course. So you're not just, repeating words here, you're training your ear, your muscles, your brain muscles, and your rhythm. So just be with me here, everyone. Okay? All right. We're finished with some quick drill. Let's go to the next part. Okay. All right. We are not going to really dig immediately with the different rules into word stress. We try to understand as much as possible what is word stress. We're finished on that. And of course, why is word stress important? Okay? Because if we understand something that is something, and if we understand that that something is really important, we tend to get motivated to learn about it, diba? Right? So yes, we should be able to be familiar with why is word stress important. So why are we spending time learning about word stress anyway? What makes it so important when speaking English when it's just a very simple term? Well, everyone, here's the truth. Word stress can be the difference between being understood and being misunderstood. Okay? It's the line in between. So you could be using all the correct grammar and vocabulary, but if your stress is off, the person you're talking to might still struggle to know or to follow you. So that can be frustrating, not just for them, but for you as well as the speaker. Okay, let's break it down into how many benefits. But yeah, let's break it down into different benefits. Let's start with the first one. First, proper word stress helps improve your pronunciation. When you use the correct rhythm, your words sound more natural and your speaking becomes more smoother. Right? You won't need to overthink every word. You'll start to feel the rhythm and trust your instinct. That's why word stress really helps with the pronunciation. It's fundamental, as I said earlier, right? Second, you'll sound more natural and confident. Okay, as well as it will help people understand you. So um native speakers or people who uses English, um they often rely on stress to catch the key parts of what you're saying. So if your stress is too flat or placed incorrectly, even a simple sentence can become confusing. But with stronger, clear word stress, your message comes through loud and clear also. So yes, word stress might seem like a small detail, but it's a small detail that has a huge impact on your communication. So it's like adding seasoning to a dish. It brings everything to life. That's word stress. That's why it's very important. All right, let's have the next one. Word stress is also important because it helps you become a better listener. It builds listening skills, basically. Let's think about real life conversations. When native speakers talk, they don't pronounce each syllable slowly and carefully, right? They talk fast because, of course, that's their native language. It's like part of them. So, why would they talk so formally? Right? So they tend to talk fast. They link words together. We call it connected speeches. And they naturally stress certain syllables while reducing others because that's the language that they were born into. So they're already used to it. They're not conscious about it. Okay? So you might catch a few sounds but not the whole word usually. Even me, there are times that I have a hard time, understanding some native speakers of English because they really talk fast. Although that's not a problem. Of course, that should not be a problem. But it's just me, it's just me. It's just that, I still lack skill in terms of people who really talk fast. Okay. But here's the good news here. Let's go back to this one. When you learn to recognize stress patterns, it becomes much easier to understand people. You start to hear which parts of a word carry the most meaning, and you can guess the word even if you miss a syllable or two because it's very familiar to you. There's this familiarity that when you hear, just a little bit of the word, or even if you don't hear the whole word at all, but just a part of it, you already know what the word is, right? That because there's this familiarity that this particular word sounds like this. So even if you weren't able to fully hear everything about about a sentence, you understand the whole thing, right? Because you know each part, you're familiar with the words, and it really helps. Okay, so that's it. So it's more of like you are tuning your ear to the rhythm of English, and suddenly you are not just, hearing sounds, you're hearing meaning. Okay? That's why it's really important. It's very, very important in a way that if you start to hear meaning instead of hearing sounds, that only means that that particular word is part of your vocabulary already because you understand it so well that you use it in your everyday language, in your conversational language when it comes to using English as a medium for communication, right? It's part of your vocabulary, and that's what we aim as much as possible. If we want to be a fluent English speaker, or maybe not a fluent English speaker, but someone who can speak English in a conversational setting, we want to build our vocabulary, our English vocabulary specifically. And we can do that by, consistent practice, by understanding the concepts, not just, diving in immediately with the examples. It's very important that we understand why we are learning about this. Okay? So that it's more personal to you. All right? So here, this skill also does not just help in conversations, of course, it also helps you understand, maybe if you like movies, right? If you like movies and if you are watching movies in English, it will also help you a lot. If not movies, maybe just listening like podcasts, or if it's not a hobby, maybe work meetings, and even, if not, maybe even in IELTS and TOEFL examinations, even test questions, it can really help you a lot on that word stressing, being familiar with it. It's a small change, of course, but it's a small change that leads to big improvements in comprehension. So, yes, practicing word stress is about pronunciation, everyone. We know that, we understand that. But it's also building strong listening skills. So the more you practice saying words with the correct stress, the more your ear gets used to hearing them that way. So it's like training two skills at the same time. And that's already good benefit, right? So yes. Okay. All right. Next benefit we have here is it avoids misunderstanding. Okay? Let's revisit this important question. No, it avoids misunderstanding. So let's revisit some important question that I have in mind right now. Why is word stress such a big deal in English? Basically just a rephrase of the question I have here. Why is word stress important? Why is it such a big deal in English? Word stress, what's in it? Okay, imagine this. Well, try to imagine this. You're having a conversation using a word you are sure is correct. But instead of understanding you, the other person looks confused. Maybe they ask you to repeat, or maybe they guess the wrong meaning. That can feel discouraging, right? But a big reason for that confusion is often incorrect word stress. Even when you say all the sounds correctly, if the stress is on the wrong place, the word might sound unfamiliar to the listener, or worse, it could sound like a completely different word. That's how misunderstandings happen. But on the flip side, when you use the correct stress, your speech, of course, it becomes clearer. You become more confident, natural, in return, and you become more natural when speaking English. You're easier to understand. You don't have to repeat yourself as much because the listener understand you. They don't have any confusions. They don't have any questions. They don't want you to repeat yourself because they already understand you. It's very clear on their side. And honestly, you just feel better knowing that people get you the first time. No, it just feels better if people really don't have to ask you to, can you repeat yourself, or pardon. You know, it just means that you did a great job at conveying the message that you're supposed to convey. Or maybe just, good job in talking, right? Now, look at the image. Okay, this one. See those two people with the question marks and the tangled line between them? That messy squiggle? That's exactly what miscommunication feels like. You know, But when you use word stress correctly, that particular confusion clears up. That line becomes smooth. The message here is really received. Okay, very important. That's our goal here in communicating, that our listener can be able to receive and completely understand our message, right? And the way we know that they understand our message is by their replies, their responses. May it be verbal, through, orally, through mouth, or nonverbal, through gestures, facial expressions, or any kind of nonverbal communications. That's already also a response in itself. Okay, so as we continue practicing, everyone, remember this isn't just about pronunciation drills here. You are learning a tool that helps you connect more clearly with others. Okay, that's powerful enough, and that's exciting, and that's why word stress really matters. Anyway, let's move on to this syllables. Okay, before we continue practicing word stress, let's pause for a quick but important review. We understand this already, but just, a quick review, a quick recap. What exactly is a syllable? Okay. Here, a syllable is a single unbroken sound part of a word. Words can have one or many syllables. So a syllable is simply a single unbroken sound part, a unit in a word here. So you can think of it like a beat or chunk of sound that forms the rhythm of the word. So every time your jaw drops or your voice pulses, that's usually a syllable. So some words have just one syllable, like cat or book. Others have many, like banana or watermelon. So like you see on the image here, no? Notice how banana is split into three parts? Because there's three syllables in there. Ba, na. Each part is one syllable. Easy, right? So that's why we say the word has three syllables. Same with watermelon. You can break it into wa, first syllable, ter, second syllable, followed by mel, third syllable, and on, the fourth syllable, which gives us four syllables all in all. And bonus points if you caught the little character asking here, then may I eat them? Of course, love that. Okay? All right. So this is why syllables matter when we talk about word stress, because in order to stress the correct syllable, we have to know how many syllables are even in the word. So you can't stress the second syllable if you don't know there is a there is a second syllable, right? Because there should be two syllables if we talk about second syllable. So that's why we also need to really be familiar with syllables, because that's part of a word. That's fundamentals also. Okay. So yeah, before we place stress, we listen for syllables, because that's syllables are the one who made up are the parts that made up a word, which is why it's very important. Each word here has its own rhythm. We know that, and the syllables are the base of that rhythm. That's how it works. So once you get a good at hearing them, you will find it much easier to figure out where the stress goes. So let's practice finding syllables in a few more words in the next part. Maybe, or let's just see. No? You're doing amazing. This is a big step in mastering clear and confident English speech or English communication. What do we have here? Okay. Now that we know what a syllable is, let's look at some real words and count their syllables together. Very easy, very simple. This is an important step before we can identify where the stress goes. Okay? Look at these examples. We have cut. As it says here, there's only one syllable. We know that. Very familiar, very easy. This word is nice and simple. Just a one syllable. It's a quick sound. Nothing to break apart here. What you hear is what you get. Cut. Next, window. Two syllables. Say it slowly. Window. You can feel your mouth open two times, right? Window. Okay. Next, elephant. Three syllables. Elephant. Try clapping each part if it helps. Font. Again, font. Elephant. Lastly, opportunity. Again, opportunity. Now we're stepping up. This one has five syllables. Opportunity. Opportunity. Can you hear each beat? Opportunity. Again, opportunity. Okay. And here's the important connection to word stress. Each of these words has one syllable that carries the stress. So the others are said more quickly and softly. So first, we break the word down into syllables. Then we figure out which one gets the spotlight. Just like in music, we need to hear the beats before we can find the rhythm. Okay? Let's try breaking down a few more words next. But, let's just keep going. You're doing awesome so far. Let's have this first. Let's try to look into the key characteristics of a stressed syllable. So, because we already know that what syllables are and how to count them, it's really time to understand what makes one syllable stand out more than the others. In English, that's what we call the stressed syllable, and it has four key characteristics. Let's go through each one. First, louder. A stressed syllable is louder. When a syllable is stressed, we raise our voice just a bit more. It's not shouting, it's simply using a little more vocal power to help that syllable rise above the others. Think of it like turning up the volume just slightly. Okay? Longer in duration also. The stressed syllable takes just a bit more time to say, so it's stretched ever so slightly, while the unstressed syllables are said quickly and quietly. So it's like the beat that lingers in a song. It kind of gives the word rhythm. Okay? Okay. Third, um, it's spoken with higher pitch. So pitch, as we know, it is about how high or low your voice sounds. That's pitch. In a stressed syllable, our pitch often goes a little up a little. That small rise in pitch helps the syllable get attention and tells the listener, hey, this part is important. That's pitch. And lastly, a stressed syllable is said more clearly. When we stress a syllable, we pronounce it more carefully. So the vowel sound in that syllable is usually clear and full, while the other syllables might sound shorter or more relaxed. So this clarity helps people recognize the word immediately. Okay? So to sum it up, a stressed syllable is louder, longer, higher in pitch, and more clearly pronounced. So all of these work together to create the rhythm of English words. And here's something cool. Once you start hearing these characteristics in everyday words, you'll get better at using them in your own speech. It becomes natural, just like tapping your foot to a beat. Okay? We'll practice identifying these in words in the later parts of our discussion. Okay? All right. Let's keep it going, everyone. Okay. All right. What's the next one? All right. Now that we know how stressed syllables work, the ones that are, again, what is it? The ones that are louder, longer, and more clear. It's time to talk about their quieter siblings and stressed syllables. Okay? Let me just quickly check my screen. Oh no. Okay. Thank for a moment because the screen is, as you can see it, if you're here with me, it's, kind of cut in at the top part for a moment. Okay, done. It's fixed already. Let's continue. Sorry for that. Thankfully, I was able to check on it before the other parts, but I guess it's already done. I'm already on my 12th slide. So, sorry for the inconvenience. I hope it was still clear. It was still readable. No, some parts is still readable. I'm sorry if that happened. Thankfully, still, I was able to notice it. Okay. All right. Moving on. We are familiar with stressed syllables, right? We also have, in relation to this, we also have unstressed syllable. As I've mentioned earlier, this is the quieter siblings. Unstressed syllables are just as important, even if they don't grab the spotlight. These are the syllables we say more softly, more quickly and less clearly. Basically, the opposite of the stress syllable that we mentioned earlier. They kind of like help create a balance in the word's rhythm, because if every syllable were stressed, we would sound like robots. It's too monotonous. So stress and unstressed work together to make, our speech flow naturally. There's like this one, instead of straight lines. Because if your voice, if your the one you if your voice is really like this, like it's monotonous, you will sound robotic. You will sound disinterested. Like you don't want to be part of this conversation, something like that. We don't want that. We don't, and that causes misunderstanding to the others. Okay? So that's that. All right. With regards to this, just a quick fun fact, if it's fun. Unstressed syllables often use a special sound called the schwa sound. It uses a schwa sound. Actually, a schwa sound is yeah, it's a schwa sound. Here written as the one you see on your screen, the upside down E. That's the IPA symbol of a schwa sound. It's the most common vowel sound in English. That's what we call schwa sound. It sounds like the soft like UH. That's the pronunciation of this particular symbol or of this particular sound. Schwa sound is UH basically. Okay? It's not solely for one type of vowel. Like maybe you're thinking this is only for letter E because the IPA symbol is upside down E. No, it's not. It fits to all vowels, five vowels that we have in English alphabet. A, E, I, O, U. All those vowels, A, E, sorry, I pronounced it in my language. It should be A, E, I, O, U. Okay? Sorry for that. It's just instinct. But anyway, the pronunciation of the vowel sounds or the vowel letters in English are A, E, I, O, U. Okay? All right. So this the one. For example, let's just try the one we had earlier, the one with banana. Let me go back to that slide because I provided the IP transcription of that one, right? And as you can see here, banana. So as you can see, what's the side? What's the IPA symbol of a schwa sound? It's an upside down E, and there's this upside down E from the first syllable as well as on the third syllable, the last sound even. Okay, the first and the last syllables, ba and na. This is unstressed, right? Because the stressed syllable in the word is the middle syllable or the first na. Here, it usually uses the schwa sound. That's why we say banana, not banana. Not all are stressed because it sounds so monotonous, just like this, right? Of course, we should be able to have a balance. If there's loud sound, there should also be quieter ones so that we can identify that this particular sound is loud because there's a comparison between the other words that are quieter. Okay? We cannot say something is louder or in general if there's no one, or if there's nothing that can compare to it, because when we use the suffix we are comparing two or more things, right? Okay, we can compare two or more things in pronunciation in this particular sound if there is no quieter sound in a word. Okay, let's go back to the slide. Okay, this one. So it's important really to know when a syllable is stressed or unstressed, especially unstressed because we're talking about unstressed syllable here. Here we don't really want to change not not wanting. We don't really change actually the spelling of the word. We are only changing how we say it. So the pronunciation it softens, but the word stays the same in writing. Okay? So as we practice more words, I want you to pay attention not just to which syllable is stressed, but also to the ones that are not. No? That contrast, that strong versus the soft, is what gives English its rhythm and makes your sound more natural. Okay? Let's keep going and try listening for both stressed and unstressed syllables in our next words. You've got this, everyone. All right. I think we're gonna be ending for a moment. Yeah. There's only three sides remaining. Let's just focus on that. Okay? Because um it's already 7:50, I guess. We only have 10 minutes left, so let's just be fast. Anyway, let's continue with this. Here we've talked about that word stress is what word stress is and how it works. So let's look at one of the most useful patterns in English pronunciation, especially when you are just starting to notice stress in the words. Here's the pattern. But before that, let's just say this particular sentence. English stress is not always predictable, but there are patterns you can learn. That's why we are going to tap into this. So the pattern is for many two syllable nouns and adjectives, the stress usually falls on the first syllable. This is not just a rule that works 100% of the time, but it's a strong pattern that can help you make better guesses when you are not sure when the stress goes. So it's not 100% of the time that this particular word would particular noun and adjectives would really be stressing on the first syllable. Okay? It's just most of the time. It's just it's just most of the time. Okay? Actually, here we are just, some simple explanations that we're going to do here because actually I'm going to dig deeper into this in our future sessions. Like I have like a list of everything about this particular rule for every part of speeches, not just nouns, not just adjectives, as well as not just verbs, because the next part of this slide is focusing on verbs. Every part of speeches in English, we're going to tap into that on our future sessions. Okay? I have really a detailed one for that. So be here with me by that time. Okay? So that you'll be able to know what we are talking about here. But anyway, going back, let's look at a few examples here. Table. So we stress the first syllable. It's already obvious because I've highlighted as well as capitalized the syllable the stress syllable here. So we stress the first syllable. It's the first syllable, table, not table. Okay? Not the second syllable. Second, window. Again, the first syllable is stressed. Window, not window. As well as happy. Same thing, happy. Not happy, but happy. Now, if you look at the IPA transcription, I provided the IPA transcription beside it. No? For table, window, this one, window, and happy. All of these IP transcription are inside a slanted bracket because that's how it should be written. Anyway, what I'm talking is, as you've noticed, there's, in an apostrophe, an apostrophe right before the whole transcription, because actually here, the apostrophe here, everyone, is a guide in your stressed word, or not stressed word, but stressed syllable. This is a guide in IP transcription. Now, if you usually you will be able to see which part of the word is stressed if it is beside if the not pronunciation, if the apostrophe is before that word or before that syllable. Okay? Just like this one, it's before the first syllable, so we are going to stress on the first syllable here. Table, window, happy. Okay? More detailed more detailed explanation on that on our later sessions. Let's look at this one. Okay? For this is what I'm talking about for verbs. The second syllable is often stressed. Often, right? Take note, often. Huh? It's often, everyone, not 100% all the time. Say, for example, to relax, decide, prepare. Okay? Lax, decide, and prayer is the stressed syllable here in the words relax, decide, and prepare. And as you see, look at the IPA transcription here, everyone. The apostrophe is in the middle. It's right before what? It's right before the second syllable. So this only means that the second syllable will be stressed, right? It just proves that verbs usually or often stress the second syllable. Okay? This is just, a way to really look into the IPA transcription or IPA as a whole. No? There's so many symbols that are attached to it. So it's as much as possible, if we if we really want to improve our pronunciation skills, we should be familiar with this one in a way that it could really help us practice our pronunciation skill. Okay? Because every symbol corresponds to only one sound. Okay? Not like not like the ratio between English alphabet letters as well as English sounds, which is 26 to 44, which is already a lot in a way. The difference between it, right? Okay. And what are we going here? Okay. All right. For this will be okay. All right. For a moment. Okay. This will be our last slide for today's session, everyone. Thank you for being here with me. But anyway, let's talk about something really interesting in English, how stress can actually change the meaning of a word. I've already mentioned it earlier, right? Yes, just by moving the stress to a different syllable, you can completely change how the word is understood. English is what we call a stress timed language, meaning that this in natural speech we focus more on the stressed syllables than on the every syllable evenly. That's different from languages like French or my language Cebuano, which are syllabic timed, where each syllable is given roughly the same amount of time and weight. So, how does that affect word meaning? Some words in English are spelled exactly the same, but it changes meaning depending on where the stress is. So, let me show you what I mean. Take the word record. If I say record, with a stress on the first syllable, I'm talking about a thing, which is a noun. For example, I listen to a vinyl record. But if I say record with a stress on the second syllable, it becomes a verb. Like I'm going to record a video. Okay? Same with the word contract. If I say contract, it's a noun. She signed a contract with the company. But contract is a verb. The muscles in your arm will contract. That's the sample sentence for this word. So this pattern happens with many noun verb pairs in English. It's one of those things that can really change your message depending on how you say it, and the phonetic spelling shows us how it sounds. Okay? So that's record or record or contract or contract. So don't worry if this seems tricky at first. I don't know if it's tricky for you, but yeah, the more you hear and practice it, everyone, the more you will start to recognize these stress patterns naturally. We'll go over more examples and practice them on our future sessions so you can feel the difference yourself and avoid accidental confusion. You are already doing an amazing job, an awesome job, even. And this is one of those skills that will seriously upgrade your speaking and listening. Okay? All right. Okay. We have that. Anyway, before we end, it's time to put our brain muscles to work again. You've already learned a ton about stress, right? Word stress, what it is, how it sounds, how to recognize it in symbols, and even how it affects meaning. Now it's time to practice it even more because practice is everything, where everything we've learned starts to really stick. So this friendly little brain is here to remind us that pronunciation, like any skill, gets easier the more you use it. And you don't need fancy tools, just your voice, just your ears, and your willingness to try. All right, let's do one of my favorite types of pronunciation drills, which is stress shift. In this activity, we'll take a single word that's spelled the same but changes its meaning depending on where the stress is. This is such a cool part of English and it really shows you why word stress matters. So for this part, we're just going to very, because I really wanted to elaborate on this one for each part. So I'm just going to ask, maybe I'm just going to ask you to read the words, the words, with the words with different stressed syllable. Okay, let's just read for now. I'm just gonna ask you the questions. Maybe tomorrow's session we'll start with this particular drill. Okay, so that we can really tap into the confusions when it comes to this particular topic. Okay, let's just try to read this for now. Okay, all right. We have address versus, um, sorry for that. Let me try one again. Once again, address versus address. Next, content. I'm not sorry. Content versus content. Decrease versus decrease. Increase versus increase. Export versus export. Object versus object. And lastly, rebel versus rebel. All right. That's the last part of our discussion for today's session, everyone. We are going to continue more on our series on word stress for the future sessions as well as tomorrow's session. We're going to continue with word stress because there's still so much, there's still so plenty of topics that we can still tap into word stress. Okay? All right. Again, I've mentioned that we will start with a quick drill. So we will start that with we will start tomorrow's session with that. Okay? All right. That's it. That's a wrap up for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here with me. I appreciate your presence, although I cannot really see any messages. I think because I don't know. Sorry. But yeah, thank you so much for being here with me, everyone. I really appreciate it. Although, as much as possible, I really wanted to talk to you. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Anyway, if you have any free time, you can always consistently practice everything that we have already with the things that I've already gave to you, the practice drills. You can always search the internet for practice drills because they can give you that many practice drills that as much as you need. Okay? That's all for today. Goodbye and have a great rest of the night ahead, everyone. This is Nicole once again, and see you tomorrow for another English class. Okay?